Thank you. Appreciate it. Chris Collard with the QRadar offering team. I'm responsible for our cloud security initiatives. I'm also joined by Mike Sanders, who's our program director for a number of our services initiative. And we work very closely in terms of integrating our offerings, our products, and our services together. So appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. We're going to talk about IBM capabilities, in particular, how they address hybrid cloud security as well as specific AWS environments. So what I wanted to do in order to kick things off was talk a little bit about the journey in terms of the evolution of cloud itself. We've broken it down here in terms of 3 distinct parts of the journey. The first, I would say, is the initial part of the journey, where it's initially production, test dev workloads, that initial start into the cloud. And as companies have progressed, there's an inflection point where they start to adopt a cloud-first initiative. So what this means is there's a line of demarcation that says, now going forward, we will deploy all apps, we will deploy all workloads in the cloud. And with that also comes this responsibility to then say, what of my on-prem workloads do I also move to the cloud? So this is very much a midpoint in the journey. And then as those workloads are increasingly in the cloud, then it's time to optimize, to orchestrate, to take advantage of embedded artificial intelligence to really ensure that you can optimize and manage at scale your cloud investments. We very much feel as that journey takes place, security needs to be at the forefront. And this migration to the cloud is an opportunity to rethink your entire stack, to relook at your processes, your data, your systems, in terms of what it means from a security standpoint. So if we look at that trajectory, I think this is a pretty astounding statistic, which is where the majority of companies are in this journey. Only 80% have still not moved. 80% of workloads have still not migrated to the cloud. This means there's a huge opportunity in front of us all in terms of what's next. And if we talk about security overlays for those environments, we're talking about 85 different or more security products from 40 different security vendors. And this can lead to a fragmented environment, and it can lead to complexity. Never mind if you start to overlay multi-cloud or hybrid approaches to that. We've all seen the shared responsibility model, and I think that this requires competency on 3 points. One is just ensuring that I'm embedding those controls, those optimized processes, those security controls inside of my cloud provider's environment, that I've defined and I have ownership for my data, my content, my rules, my configurations that will go in those environments and will remain existing in on-prem environments. And then really that marrying of the two. So that's really 3 distinct responsibilities. Managing my content, distinct from my infrastructure, my provider, and then leveraging and integrating across both of those. So with that, what are the challenges? And with those defined as the challenges, where do we need to be? So I'm going to let this slide build out here, and I'm going to talk to all 12 of these here. From IBM's standpoint, I think we need to be focused in the following areas. One is using this journey to cloud as an inflection point, understanding that this is an opportunity for me to rethink my processes, my rules, my data, and use it as that inflection point to rethink the entire security stack. And to the extent that I can, I should have the opportunity to leave my data where it sits and not have to remap that data over. As I move forward into this new model, adopting a zero trust model. So instead of open by design or open by default, it's really a zero trust model, or it's really a permission as needed. And this applies to my workflows, this applies to my users, this applies to my data, my networks. And where possible, I should be able to augment with cloud-native controls. A lot of the controls that we're learning about at the conference here, we're talking about are in discussion here, leveraging those native controls, and then augmenting them with additional tooling. We talked about those integration between those 2 points, and this is where secure DevOps is very much that enabling technology, that enabling set of skills that we need to bridge that gap between those. Finally, once you have that, ideally you've got visibility across your on-premises and your cloud as well. You've got that visibility, and then you have the ability to then do continuous monitoring to understand where you may need to take action, where you may be in compliance or, unfortunately, out of compliance. And then you can get to the state where then you can have orchestrated incident response. You understand all the data that has gone into a specific alert. You've reduced those down. You've avoided the alert fatigue or alert noise, and you're really getting to those higher fidelity, not only alerts and data points, but also higher fidelity responses. Okay, with that as a framework, what I'd like to do, I'd like to turn it over to Mike, and then I'm going to finish off with just talking a little bit about Cloud Paks.
Thank you,
Mike.
Chris. This is Mike. Can you hear me? All right, so as Chris said, I'm with IBM Security Division as well. IBM Security is about a $4 billion division inside of the IBM company. I'm going to talk to you about security services. And we're going to talk to you about how IBM helps AWS clients. I'm going to use some customer examples here so that you can get a sense for how others are dealing with security in the AWS environment. You'll also get a sense for how IBM can help you with some of the security challenges. Now, Chris talked about several of the challenges. There's no shortage of security technology. There's plenty of good technology out there. The problem is rich tools, short supply of skills, right? So that being the challenge, no organization can really embrace it all at the speed of business, and no security organization can embrace it at the speed of business and get the job done. Then it becomes multiplied when we talk about across an enterprise or a hybrid type environment. Now we see the intersection with our customers at really one of 3 points. Either in the early phase to help them with a strategy and a roadmap for securing AWS and hybrid workloads. This would be advice, assessing where they are, building a roadmap where they're going. We also intersect customers at the area where they're looking at steady state, and they're trying to address security operations, security program, steady state. So how do we help them with, let's just call it security operations, threat management, that type of thing. Also, any security organization, if not already, will find themselves challenged with how do we as a security organization align to the development process. If any of you were in Steve Schmidt's session, which was 1 hour ago, you heard Steve challenge basically the audience here in Las Vegas to security, get involved in the dev process. And so we work a lot with customers and help them do that as well. Let's see. I think I can move the charts here. Okay, so let me go ahead and build this out really quick. So I'm gonna talk about 4 kind of categories of intersecting security as key security categories. Now, let me start before I list the 4. IBM Security brings high value security consulting and systems integration, number 1. Managed security services, number 2. That's as an extension of an organization's security operation. And enterprise security technology and products, number 3. All these are factored into solutions to address several challenge areas for the business. Identity and access management being 1, data protection being 2, workload protection being 3, and threat management being 4. Now I'm going to talk about some customer examples. Given the time, I think I'm only going to be able to get to 3 of these. Let's talk about identity and access management. It's all about who has access to my workloads, right? And it's okay when we're in the traditional enterprise. We've got our identity strategy for the traditional enterprise, but now that we bring on the AWS environment, now AWS has got native sign-on capabilities, native identity and access management, how do we factor that in? So how do we really address it across hybrid? That becomes the challenge. So I want to just go through really quick here a couple of the capabilities that IBM brings to the table. So often we sit with our customers who are looking for an enterprise hybrid cloud identity. We take them through a user point of view. We actually run workshops where we bring users into the room. We call them design thinking workshops, and we address the enterprise identity and access management opportunity from the user point of view. That's where we provide a lot of high value consulting to help them get there. In the enterprise security technology area, IBM Cloud Identity is a product available from the AWS marketplace that actually addresses single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, and gives a real nice opportunity to factor a single strategy across a hybrid environment, which includes AWS and other environments as well. I mentioned data protection. So data is kind of the center of the universe, right? For those of us who are in security, I take it many people in this room are, it doesn't really matter the cloud architecture. It doesn't matter whether we're on software as a service or infrastructure as a service. We're still concerned about the data. We're concerned about how do we protect the data. Number one, we got to classify the data. We got to start off by understanding what is the data, okay? And then what are the different levels of classification that I need to manage against? How am I going to locate that data, and how am I going to establish policy and track that policy against the data? So I want to share with you a client story here, and this story I think will highlight a couple of aspects of how IBM Security helps our clients. So we think about data. This is a client that's a media and entertainment company. You would all recognize their name, although they'll go unnamed in this discussion. Now this is an SAP customer. This is a customer that had enterprise SAP already in place, and in their decision to migrate to AWS, one of the key things was, how do I migrate but protect my user experience, my user process, not have to change that when I get to AWS? So IBM Security was able to come in and help this customer address not only the application of the native AWS tools, but keep in mind, SAP comes with its own security tool set, the HANA tools, and so we had to align those, and then we also had to align an enterprise SIEM, so for an enterprise threat management process for this customer. So all this through a consulting engagement to help this customer with their plan and execution of a migration of SAP to AWS. Again, we're in the data security category, so I've talked a little bit about high-value consulting. Data classification is a place where we find ourselves helping customers very, very often. Even if customers have a data classification policy, they don't always know what it is, they don't know where it is, and they don't use it. So we help them incorporate that into the security plan. From a security operations standpoint in the data area, as an extension of our managed security services, we help organizations with a CASB. So we help organizations actually implement a policy for protecting data in software as a service or public cloud. We're now introducing a managed encryption where we offer to take on the management of the encryption across AWS and other cloud environments. And then from the enterprise technology standpoint, Guardium is available today, a very proven database monitoring capability is available for you in the AWS marketplace today. I'll transition to workload protection. So how do I deploy workloads securely, right? So my comments earlier, so Steve Schmidt says security organizations get involved in the dev process, okay? How do we do that? How are we going to be able to get ourselves in the enterprise to such a place where when we deploy applications, they are secure by design? I want to talk to you about a client that we've worked with here. This is a global telecommunications organization. I believe that they're here at the conference this week. IBM, this is an organization who provides managed AWS applications to customers. So they're providing managed services of sorts to telco customers. Now their challenge was they were going to AWS. They needed to be able to incorporate secure by design so that when they initiate these applications for these customers on AWS, that they've got the right enterprise security policy already on board. Okay? So we worked with this customer in several respects. Number one, we helped them incorporate the native AWS tools. You see many of them listed here. You're probably familiar with these. I won't read them off. But also, as part of security policy, they needed some third-party capabilities. They needed firewall capabilities. They needed host IDPS capabilities applied to these workloads. So IBM, using a combination of CloudFormation and scripting, was able to create an automated capability such that when the workload spins up, not only are the AWS native capabilities configured, but also the third-party tools from the marketplace are actually provisioned, policy, and into production at cloud speed when the workload goes into production. So in this case, this customer is able to offer their managed services in a secure by design mode. They've shifted security left into the DevOps process in order to make that happen. Services in this area, container security strategy, I didn't talk about. Cloud security posture management is a real important thing. We work with a lot of the leading CSPM providers to help customers incorporate that into the security program. From the standpoint of managed security services or security operations, other services I didn't talk about here, you've got endpoint detect and respond. We offer a managed service called Managed Detect and Respond using leading endpoint technologies like Carbon Black. You'll find that IBM Managed Security Services works with an ecosystem of best-of-breed type technologies to help AWS customers take advantage of both native and add-on technologies to get the job done. Let's talk about threat management. So think about your NIST lifecycle, okay? NIST says, okay, I need to know what my assets are, and I need to know about my assets in the environment. I need to have capability in place such that I can protect the organization from malicious activity. I need to have detection capabilities in place such that when there is anomalous activity, I can identify that and get onto it. They need an incident response process, and they need a recovery process. Here I'll talk to you about this is a global, located in Asia Pacific, a global consumer internet organization, over 8,000 instances. This is a business that needs to be able to scale dynamically, and they needed their security program transformed to scale appropriately. What IBM was able to do, we brought in our SOC optimization team, helped them develop their next generation security operations. This was done through IBM's Security Intelligence and Operations Consulting. We were able to incorporate the right utilization of AWS native capabilities. Also, we're able to incorporate enterprise tools. In this case, this customer utilized QRadar, okay? Utilized QRadar on cloud for AWS, also used the IBM Resilient incident response orchestration platform. All that enabled the next generation security operations and threat management environment for this organization. As a result of that, they were able to simplify security, scale the business as needed with the right enterprise plan in place while taking full advantage of the native security of the AWS environment. Let's see, I've talked a lot about these capabilities here. X-Force Threat Management is our next generation MSS capability available to our customers today. And then, of course, we talked about QRadar, the IBM market-leading SIEM, and also resilient incident response orchestration. The last client story I want to share with you, you're going to see some code names in this story, and I'll tell you what those are. So this is a North American events promoter. This is a large AWS shop, and this organization had the need to develop a transformed incident response plan on their AWS environment. How am I going to respond when I do have an incident involving AWS? Our IRIS team, IRIS stands for Incident Response and Intelligence Services, our IRIS team was engaged with the client. We were engaged, IBM was already engaged with AWS on the to-be-announced Defender product, which was just announced 1 hour ago by Steve Schmidt in the CISO section, and the Citadel product, which was also announced today as the IAM Access Analyzer product. Both of these products were immediately embraced by this client and factored into their incident response program for incidents on AWS. So this is an example of IBM working very closely with AWS, introducing a client to the right native capabilities at the right time, getting it in place to optimize the client's ability to execute. Okay, so I'm going to have to turn it back. I'm going to turn it back over to Chris just really quick.
I think we're out of time. But I just want to thank everybody for their time. Our booth is right over there. We'd love to talk to you about Cloud Paks for Security, where we bring a lot of this together. We've introduced something that's open, connected, all about integrating your data, and I think will help you. We'd love to talk to you, and we'd love to follow up. So thanks, everybody, for their time. Appreciate it. Thank you.